Stitchless TV. Now, today on Stitchless TV, I thought it might be a good time to have a look at how we create these draped hearts. I learnt how to do them when I went on a TR cutting course with Shingo Sato. Now, the one that's closest to the one that we're doing today is this one here, because we're going to use a striped fabric, because I think it helps you understand how it all works. Our starting point for doing these draped hearts is, in this situation, a fitted bodice. Now, you either need a fitted bodice pattern that has 2 darts. Now, that's the easier one to do. Or you can use a pattern that has the princess seam line, and that's what we're going to use today as our pattern block for doing the draped heart. Now, as you can see, this fits the dressmaker's dummy perfectly, but the one that I'm going to be using fits me perfectly. Now, if you're looking for a good pattern that has a princess seam line on its bodice block, I have used in the past this Eliza Lex dress pattern, and look, that has a similar bodice on it. So what you would do what we're doing today to create the front bodice block with the draped heart, and then you just finish off the dress the way the by hand London girls tell you to. I actually, slightly digressing, but I actually used the Eliza Lex dress pattern to create this coat with a tail at the back. Right, now what's important is, if you have bust darts, you have to be aware of the point of the bust dart, okay, on both sides, and mark them. Now, we don't have them today, so I'm going to sort of guesstimate where that sort of bust darty point is, because I need to know where it is. Right, so I think it's about here. Now remember, this is made to fit me and not this dummy, okay? Now, I've also pressed a seam down the middle, right, because I always like to know where the middle of my projects are. And then when you're ready, you can start drawing out a heart shape. So I think I'm going to do something a bit like this. But what's really important is that your design must go through that point there, okay? Because we're going to lose all of these darts or style lines, and we're going to absorb them into this heart shape here. So I'm going to take it down there, like that. Now, what I'll probably do is cut out this side and reflect it over onto the other side, just to make sure that it's symmetrical, and then you see what happens to this pattern. Right, so I'm going to cut out that heart now. Right, I just remembered something really, really important. Now, before I get too carried away with cutting it out, we have to do notches. Really important, we have to do notches. So, just written notches. I'm going to put an A there and an A there. And then I'm going to do a B there and a B there and a D. Now, your notches are always supposed to be at right angles to your line, okay? They always go at right angles to your line. Now, I should have really done it whilst it was still drawn on there, but I think we're going to be okay. They do all line up. So when you do yours, do it when you've drawn out your actual pattern before you cut it. Right, do you see what's happened? Do you see how flat this pattern piece has become now? So it doesn't need any darts or any princess seam lines, because the shaping has been absorbed into this flat heart. So there, that space there is effectively where we've relocated the darts. Now I know that might hurt your head, but believe me, it will work. So if you compress all of your pattern pieces, and then we're going to do the next stage. Now we're going to have to add seam allowance all around that heart, okay, and then also seam allowance on the inside, but I want a very small seam allowance. I just want it to be something like 1/2 centimetre, no bigger than that, and you must mark all of those notches and actually label them as well to keep track. But the first thing that we need to do is, with it the right way up, I want you to cut one of these out of a plain piece of fabric, but I'm going to use calico. So do your notches at right angles to your style line, and you've got to label them as well. So I've got D, C, A, okay, and E. Now you've got to do a seam allowance. Now really we should be using a French curve, but I'm just going to do it by hand. And we're only going to do a 1/2 centimetre, okay? It's a 1/2 centimetre seam allowance. 1/2 centimetre. It's good to have a little notch there in the middle, by the way. When you've done that, then cut it out. So you should end up with this. That's got the seam allowance and the notches and the letters labelled, and this is the original one. Right, now we're going to cut out the surrounding bit of the bodice, which is going to be in our actual fabric, and we must add seam allowance and labelled notches. I know it might make the camera go a bit funny, but I do think it's good for you to understand what's going on, and so that you can see it, but I'm going to cut it out of this stripy stuff. Right, now take the surrounding bit of the bodice, okay, see, look how flat it is. Choose your fabric that you're going to use for that part. Now remember, you've got seam allowance already included on your pattern. The only place you haven't got a seam allowance is where the heart gets inserted. So you need to add that small 1/2 centimetre seam allowance, do all your notches at right angles to the style line, to the seam, okay, and label them all. Now remember, your fabric must be right sides up, the same way up as your pattern. That's very important. So if you've labelled all of your notches, then you will end up with that. Now I've actually done a cheeky thing without you looking, okay? Don't you do this unless you're sort of experienced. So you would just cut this out of one piece of material. And what Shingo's really big on is that don't think about it being on the grain. It can be any direction you want, okay? So what have we got? We've got this, and then we've got the heart with the seam allowance, okay? Now I want you to choose a point, a place on this heart, which is where we're going to create the drape from. Now I think, just to make it simple, I'm going to put mine just down the middle somewhere. So I think I'm probably going to put mine there. Right, this is very important because I've done it wrong quite a few times now. So you've got your heart right sides up, but wrong sides of your heart, so the back of your heart is touching the right side of the fabric. Now I will write that down to make it clearer, okay? And then you're going to draw a triangle. Now my triangle is slowly getting bigger and bigger and bigger. It's just going to be a great hole. you're going to draw a triangle and you're going to stitch along that line, then cut away the inside, mitre those corners, and then turn it through. Well, I'm pleased to inform you that that was the correct way, but I've now got an enormous triangle in my heart. Oh, sounds like that could be a song. Now, rather than pulling the material through the hole, do you know what? Just push the heart through the hole. Now, when you've done that, okay, I want you to give it a good old press. Okay, so I've pressed it. See how nice and clean it is. Now, this is actually the back side of our heart, because look, all right, that's the right side. Now, we're just going to turn it over. Now, we're going to start doing a really, really interesting thing. So my heart is there underneath, all right? And I don't think that there's any particular rule to this, but if you sort of hold a corner a little bit and bring a bit round, okay, get maybe another corner and let it overlap that hole a bit, okay? So that's how I sort of see it. I see it as these sort of folds are coming over and hiding that hole, sort of, anyway. So just keep working it, keep bringing your fabric gently across and around that hole. So just keep working it. So sometimes you've got to hold underneath rather than on top. So you want some nice natural flowing fold lines. So I'm just going to keep doing that. And you can watch me if you want, or you can go make a cup of tea until I've got a shape that I think looks good. So holding underneath seems to be a good way to do it, holding the edge of that triangle. Right, I think I'm probably sort of happy with that. Now when you are happy with it, you're going to have to get your pins out. Now, as you know, because I hardly ever use pins, I've not really got that many. Anyway, so what I'm doing is, I'm having a look to see where my heart template is underneath, and I'm strategically placing the pins to not only hold these shapes, but I'm trying to put them far back enough so that I'll be able to cut around that heart and not cut the pins. So try and make it look as natural as possible, because the fabric will sort of, you know, it will naturally want to go in a certain direction. So I'm going to pin all of my pleats in place now. Well, I think I'm happy with that. And you can just keep doing this all day. So I'm going to make sure that even where there are no pleats, that I've definitely got it nice and flat underneath. And then when you turn it over, you can see where you're going to have to cut out your heart. So if you're definitely sure, you can cut it out. Now, I have wasted quite a lot of material, I am aware of that, but I didn't want to spend time sort of trying to guess and measure it out. But hopefully you'd be a bit more careful and don't cut into your heart and just go all the way round cutting it out. So you can see why we had to put the transfer the labelled notches onto the back side of our heart, can't you? Because otherwise we wouldn't know where they are. Right, so now what I'm going to do is, let's turn it over. Now that is quite beautiful, isn't it? So now, using a really small, like 0.5 centimetre seam allowance, I want you to stay stitch all around the edge, and then that will be enough to hold those darts in place. Right, now you know a stay stitch is just to hold it in place, don't you? So I don't need to go backwards and forwards or anything, okay? I'm just going to sew, switch on the machine, simply to hold this fabric, if it's pleats, onto the heart fabric, the backing fabric. Right, now you can take all the pins out. And then we're ready to put that draped heart into our bodice. And the way that we do that, it isn't difficult, okay? You've just got to take your time. You've got to line up your notches. So I'm going to match up my H notch with the H notch that's on here, and then I'll match up my D notch with the D notch that's on here and keep working my way all the way round. Right, strangely enough, I'm going to start with the A notch because it's on one of these curved bits. Now I don't know if any of you are experienced in sewing curves, but there is a bit of a technique, okay, and it involves sort of snipping into the curve. So let's start off with that one. So, matching up my A notch with the A on the heart. Now when I do this, I normally work in small sections. I'm not in any hurry at all. I'm just going to start there. Now it has also just occurred to me that my notches are on the other side of this. Right, so as we go around, we're doing a little, seam allowance. Very, very small seam allowance, and because it's so small, sometimes you can get away with hardly snipping in on your curves. Right, I've got my B now. Where's my B got to go? So my B's got to match up with the B there. So I'm matching it up, seeing how it fits. I can see it needs a few snips. So the way I'm sewing it is I've got the heart underneath and I've got the fabric on the top, and I'm working really slowly in little sections, and I haven't actually got any pins, but not because I'm trying to be clever, because I think they sort of get in the way sometimes. So my next one's E, and it's all the way down there. So let's see how it is. It's there, seems to be okay. I think it should be able to reach. So what I'd say is just sew with a normal straight stitch first of all and see how it looks, and then sort of tidy it up afterwards. Let's have a look and see how that looks. So by the time that's pressed, I think that that is pretty good. So keep working around your heart, doing the same sort of method. Now the most difficult bit to do, and I do sort of avoid it a little bit, is this bit here. But what you have to remember is just line up your seams, okay? Get it right in there. So I've got a centre seam to help me, but you would just line up the middle. Get your needle in position and start doing teeny weeny little snips on this curve until it splays out and fits really nicely. So I'm going backwards and forwards just for that bit, and then I'm coming around this bend. You have to just experiment really, but just take your time, really take your time. So that's that part sort of sorted, and now you've got to try and go there. Now before you can go there, Right, another really tricky bit is getting onto this bit here, okay? Now it's very, very important that you snip into the back of that heart, right to the point of a V, because you need to swivel all of this stuff around. You need to snip right into that V, swivel it all around, and see where your next notches are. So that's an A that's got to go to there. And then you just got to start making your way around. Now the thing is, I think it's probably better to go from I think it's easier to go from your notch to that little tricky centre bit there, because it's easier having the heart underneath. Now look how I'm doing these little snips on this curve, and then I'm making sure that they fit. So I'm not going backwards and forwards because I don't know if it's right, and I might have to undo it. Okay, and just try and get it to fit. It's not easy. Now you don't have to do this as a heart, you could just do it as a square, that'd be easy, wouldn't it? Or a triangle. So when I get there, I am going to go backwards and forwards and have a look. Right, I just want you to see, like mine isn't completely perfect, but I'll either go in again and try again, but what I'm more likely to do is just unpick that stay stitch, because that's good enough for me. And then just work your way all the way round. Okay, I thought you probably want to have a closer look, don't you? So look, in there is a little hole, but you can't see it, can you? This is made to fit me. So it's a bit big round here, but do you remember the other one? The other one fitted because I made it to fit the dummy. Now if you feel like you can't integrate it, like sew it in as a seam, if it's too advanced for you, you can still have some fun with it, because you could always stitch it on top of something, couldn't you? You could just do the draped heart and then stitch it on top of a dress that was in the same fabric. I've actually got a tutorial of how to upcycle a t-shirt using a similar sort of method. So thank you so much for watching Stitchless TV. Remember, we've got about 150 free sewing and DIY style and sewing report videos. So don't forget to subscribe, and if you do, you've got to click that little bell if you want to be notified of new sewing videos. Comments are good. I always respond to all comments, nearly all comments, and likes, they always go down well too. Thank you so much for watching. See you again very soon. Oh, I've got to put it against me. I'll do